Welcome to Greenhouse Grower to Grower, the podcast where we're shaping the future of floriculture one conversation at a time. We talk with the growers, leaders, and innovators shaping tomorrow's greenhouse industry today. From market trends, next generation plants, and innovative production, to the challenges and breakthroughs redefining what it means to grow. I'm Brian Sparks, editor of Greenhouse Grower. Let's dig into what's next together. During Cultivate 26, Stephen Weichsel, program manager for young plants at Green Circle Growers in Oberlin, Ohio, will talk about how to leverage data-driven tools to measure and optimize plant performance, streamline operations, and boost profitability. He'll also outline real-world practical strategies for creating and applying actionable KPIs to drive efficiency in the greenhouse. I caught up with Stephen to learn more about why this should be a critical area of focus for the floriculture industry and what you can expect to learn during his presentation. Here's our conversation. So, Stephen, I want to thank you for joining me today on the Greenhouse Grower to Grower podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you for the invitation.
The main reason that I wanted to talk to you is about is a presentation that you'll be giving at Cultivate this year. But before we get to that, I do want to learn a little bit more about your background in the horticulture industry and how that's led to your role at Green Circle Growers in Ohio, for our audience who may not know that much about you.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Well, I've been in the industry now going on 9 years,
Okay.
and I did other things in a prior life
Okay.
before relocating back to Florida at the time.
Okay.
And I answered an Indeed.com ad for Knox Horticulture,
Okay.
which basically read something to the effect of, "Do you know what a pivot table is?" And Knox was 5 minutes away from where I was living, and
Okay.
that's how I got started in horticulture.
Okay.
So Young Knox Horticulture is a young plant producer, plug and liner supplier down in Winter Garden, Florida.
Mhm.
And that's where I learned the industry. So I learned from Bruce Knox, the owner, and Roger Dutcher, who's the young plant program manager down there.
Okay.
And everything I know about young plants, I say I've learned from Roger.
Okay.
And so I was there for about 5 years. And then this opportunity came available here up in Green Circle in Ohio. I'm originally from the Pittsburgh area, so attitudinally and weather-wise, I'm much happier up here in Ohio compared to Central Florida.
Sure.
Um, and I've been doing for the past 3+ years now
I,
here in the program manager role here at Green Circle.
I promise this will be the only time I bring up anything sports related, but being outside of Cleveland, it's got to be frustrating as a Pittsburgh sports fan.
Again, attitudinally, people are very similar, except everybody wears the wrong color on Sundays. It's very disturbing.
Yeah, that's about all I can say on the sports side. Just being a Cleveland Browns fan, we don't have a whole lot to say right now. So,
There are a few of us here at Green Circle who are also Steelers fans,
yeah,
and it's hey, y'all are the Browns. Y'all are what you are.
exactly, exactly. Well, I mean, it sounds like you've got an interesting path to where you are today, and it really sounds like your education experience was really hands on. It sounds like that's a great way to jump in and learn quickly about what's important to this industry.
Correct, absolutely. It's a lot to take in, especially being a plug and liner supplier. Just the item list itself. I
Yeah,
remember during one of my interviews, Roger left the room and came back in with basically a ream of paper and slapped it down on the desk and said, "This is our program." Just and I know that many growers really rely on individual paper static reports, right? What's
yeah,
coming up this week? What's from there? And that's how Knox was really operating um, at the time. Once I got in and started learning things and applying what I had known, I realized that they had 17 years worth of data in their ERP system. That all you had to do was connect the dots, right, and see where the past was and what can you learn. And
yeah.
that's one of the things I did when I was at Knox there.
Okay. How was that process in terms of just implementing some of those changes at the company and getting everybody on board for that next step?
Oh, that is change management is hard no matter what industry you're in.
Sure.
Um, it helps to build relationships and trust. I mean, if you know what you're talking about,
Hmm.
that helps. But also, it's the interpersonal relationships. That's something that I had experienced with before coming into horticulture. Although it's a little bit different in horticulture, many of our businesses, if not most of our businesses, are family run,
Yeah.
and so it's definitely a different dynamic versus a straight corporate world.
Sure.
Um, and that tends to pervade everything, really. And it has good positives and negatives. I'd say mostly positive, Most people in the horticulture industry are friendly and
Hmm.
they're happy, even when things go wrong. But we're all in the same situation. So as long as you explain, hey, what happened in general, they understand because it's happened to them before.
Oh, sure, sure. I imagine every year I go to cultivate and I have conversations with growers on the show floor and I ask them how the year went. The answer is usually pretty good. And that's, as you said,
Hmm.
it's a largely optimistic group, despite the challenges that this industry and really any other industry faces.
Correct.
That's great for them. Speaking of cultivate, I do want to talk about that. So I know you're involved in the program this year. If you want to talk a little bit about the topic that you'll be presenting on and why it's such an important, and I'm talking about data driven decisions, why it's such an important topic for growers in this industry.
Yep. So this is the second year I've actually presented a cultivate. Last year I did one all about yield,
Okay.
things that I've noticed with that. I did well enough because they invited me back, so that's a good thing. Thank you, American Hort. But this one is all about creating KPIs and how you can apply them and how it can help drive decisions.
Okay.
As I mentioned just a bit ago, I've noticed in this industry that we tend to be very linearly focused, meaning that we are worried about next week. What's
Yeah.
our next week production, or what are things going to look like in 12 weeks, whatever we have the finish here? And since the seasons are so packed compared to the
Okay.
rest of the year, we tend to be extremely focused, and everybody's all hands on deck. We are
Yeah.
all trying to worry to get everything done that you need to, especially for the spring season. If you're
Mhm.
a lucky enough business, you also have a fall season, and if you're an extremely lucky, you're busy year round, but that's very rare. We tend to
Sure.
be very, very focused in business. And we always have the best of intentions to remember to do something different next season. But do we actually do that? I can tell you, looking at it from a plug and liner supplier, I see so many customers who just reorder the same thing year over year over year. It's
Sure.
like they're doing whatever's easy. Um, in addition to that pressure of the season, we also have recency bias. We tend to
Okay.
remember what happened last, and
Yeah.
again, anything that happened before that's gone. Or we have what I call, or what other people call, flashbulb memory. Something happened so far in the past that that's locked in and it stays with you. Again,
Yeah.
I've talked with many growers. Hey, they tried product X 20 years ago. It didn't work, so they're never trying it again.
Mhm.
Well, things change over time. So how do you break out of that, get out of that? Well, you got to aggregate your data and you have to understand, put together the right tools so that you can make data driven decisions effectively to help steer your business going forward.
Yeah.
And so my session at on Monday morning down at Cultivate is just what is a good KPI? How do you design it? And we're going to walk through a hypothetical example and then three real world examples that we use here in Green Circle to be able to apply to future decision making.
I think those real world examples are so critical because I mean, you can talk all you want about the process and how it works, but once you show how you've done it, how you've done it successfully, I think that hopefully makes a big difference to who's listening to that message.
Hopefully, and it's their businesses is not exactly the same as Green Circle. Fair. I mean,
Sure.
yes, we're all growing plants, we're all growing flowers, but it's different. But hopefully, they're going to be able to take something away from that that they can then apply to their own business, or that inspires some thought with them.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
and
and you figure, processes like this and making decisions like this, as you said, you're coming at it from the perspective of one of the larger growers in the industry, but it's got to be important to everybody who's out there. I mean, I remember, it runs parallel, I think, to a couple of years ago. I was at in a panel discussion to Cultivate when they were talking about automation. And they had a panel of three different growers on stage, a large grower, a medium sized grower, and a smaller operation. They all approached automation in different ways, but they all knew that it was something that they had to implement in order to, move into the future. And it sounds like this is something very similar, I think.
yeah, and the industry again has its pluses and minuses, but people either are in the family or they knew that they wanted to be in horticulture in some way. So they went to college for that and went from there. There
Yeah.
aren't a bunch of data analysts that are actually floating around horticulture. So um, uh, I I'm one of the rare ones who came in with some sort of skills coming in and just applied it to the industry. And fortunately, again, through my background at Knox and now at Green Circle, I've had the
Yeah.
opportunity to use a lot of data and make mistakes, honestly, but also learn from it on how we can make things more efficient or better decisions going forward.
Well, and your role there makes me think of what a group like, and I know this is more towards the next generation of folks coming into the industry, but like Seed Your Future. So they have like a resources page on their website that outlines every possible role in horticulture, some of which you're in the greenhouse all day, working with plants, some of which you don't have to touch or see a plant the whole time you're there, but your role is just as valuable to anybody else in the company. And this is a great example of something like that, I think.
It is, although having said that, I'm not a grower, but I think I'm grower adjacent at this point. I
Sure.
walk through the greenhouse every day looking at plants. It's pattern recognition.
Mhm.
I represent Green Circle visiting into industry events or going to different trials. I have learned over the past 9 years to at least have a sense on what's a true groundbreaking genetic versus what's a me too that's being
Yeah,
introduced. So, and that's important with our programs of it. That's the sales side of what I do and the
sure.
program development. But yeah, you can learn other things. Talking about that Seed Your Future, we have a very strong internship program here at Green Circle where
Yeah.
we bring in a dozen or so horticulture students to go through a rotation. They're
Mhm.
mostly focusing on the growing side, but part of our internship is to see what other people do here at Green Circle. Yeah,
Yeah.
you may be a grower for a while, but here are all the opportunities within our company, or that can be within the industry. So yeah,
Well, it
definitely
makes
a plus.
sense too. Yeah, I mean, it certainly makes sense because if you're going to hire somebody, I mean, they know that they're not just going to be isolated in one area. They're going to be working across departments. They got to have a feel for how this department operates in parallel with this other department at the company. So that's really
Mhm.
important, I think.
We also put them in teams so they come up with a group project, and it's all about launching a new product.
Nice.
And there's a different assignment, so they have to go out on themselves and make connections within the organization if they want
Okay.
to be successful. I say they have
Yeah.
to reach out to, hey, where can I find this bit of information or such things, so that they put it together and then they sell it to members of senior leadership.
Sure.
It's a great thing that we do here.
Okay. Okay. I want to talk a little bit more about the whole process of making informed, data-driven decisions, especially nowadays as you look towards a grower or company planning, not just for next year, but for the few years beyond that. Given the time when we're trying to manage costs as critically as we can, and you've got all these fluctuations in the market, why is something like this so critical in short and long-term planning for a company in this industry?
I've seen so many growers react on feel.
Mhm.
And I get that because as a grower, you're changing how you're going to water or spray depending on weather conditions, and that's really tough to predict.
Sure.
And even in a very climate controlled greenhouse like ours is, you still have to change what you're doing. So you're always reacting. But making dollars and cents decisions, especially strategic planning, the one limit that every grower has is their square footage.
Mhm.
And you have to, or you should, in order to measure, if you're presuming you're hopefully in this business to make money, maximizing your profitability per square foot week or however else you're going to measure that
Yeah.
is key. So how do you do that? Well, you can do it by feel, or you can arrive with metrics that are repeatable and that are easy within your current computer system or whatever to be able to have to replicate, compare how you did in the past, and look towards how the future. It's it's how you're going to be able to better stay in business or whatever your expansion plans are or whatever your goals are.
Yeah. Well, I would imagine too, as you have transitions in the company, whether you're moving somebody up to a new role or you're bringing somebody in new, if somebody, retires or leaves the company for whatever reason, having that, at somebody's fingertips, it's got to be so much better than just having in somebody's mind
Yep.
they leave the company and you lose that institutional knowledge that you hear so much about.
That certainly is. I can tell you that that was a weakness at Knox when I was there. It was a weakness here at Green Circle as well. There are some roles that we have that mostly exist in people's heads,
Yeah.
and I know that I'm at risk of being in that same spot just because of what I do and how I do it. I try my best to be able to duplicate efforts, meaning other people know sort of what I'm doing,
Yeah.
and that when I'm creating something, I try my best again to note it as well as I can. So there's always, if I'm doing something in Excel, for example,
Yeah.
I'm going to create one tab. The first tab is called Read Me, and I put whatever notes in there that I think is relevant for somebody following me if I'm not around. So
Okay.
maybe they'd be able to follow it. Um, but yeah, succession planning, having duplication of efforts. I know a lot of people are afraid of that. Hey, I'm losing my job or my job's
Mhm.
at risk for this. But I've never found that truly to be the case in my professional life. The way that you get prepared for something different is by making sure that other people can do what you're doing now. And that allows you to have more freedom, more time to be able to go after potentially higher yield or other activities.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure too. I mean, as somebody uses, some of the emerging like AI tools, for example, that frees them up from the complexity of some tasks that would take them a day or two to to work on. Now they can get things done in just an hour, even less. Be able to focus on, new idea generation or something new that that they wanted to work on, but they haven't had a chance to because they're bogged down in some of the day to day stuff. I think.
So, in regards to AI in particular,
Yeah.
that is an initiative that is still going through our organization.
Mhm.
I use, I'll use two names. I'll use Grok for my personal stuff,
Okay.
and then we have Claude here, where
Sure.
selected members have a license for it, as well as the Copilot, which is part of Microsoft 365. So three different groups.
Mhm.
But even this morning, today, because the sales rep asked the question, "Hey, will you do Series X, right,
Yeah.
into our program at a small minimum?" And too much to go into about all those sort of questions. But I asked again, I opened it up. It's a personal question, so therefore nothing proprietary.
Yeah.
I asked Grok, what's an acceptable substitute for this Viola series?
Mhm.
Okay. And bam, it spits out here's it is, here's where the breeder comes from, here's what all the traits are, and here are three other competing or equivalent substitutable series. And
Yeah.
it gives a nice chart there. If I had this 9 years ago, I wouldn't have, well, maybe I wouldn't have learned as much as I learn now, or maybe I
Yeah.
would have been more efficient learning. Yeah. So I had to know in my head now I know all the Gerber series, what's equivalent to one another. But that took years to develop. Now anybody can get that similar sort of thing just by posing one simple question to a free use AI tool in a lot of cases. So
How,
it's if you make use of it, it's
yeah.
there.
Sure. How do you guys as a company see yourselves continuing to use some of these tools, whether it's whether it's in production planning or HR, anything similar that would help you guys plan ahead?
Yep. It's all open for discussion, and it's something that's long term with our business systems team, which is all about our processes. We get reports about I just somebody from our business systems team shared is
Sure.
that they are monitoring, which employees are actually using AI,
Mhm.
and again through the Copilot, which is part of our Microsoft 365 subscription, they can say, hey, this percentage of employees used Copilot at least once in a month, right?
Yeah.
And you can see exactly what the overall usage is. And for some people, that's enough. Hey, how do I phrase this email better? Or what's the situation that a troublesome interpersonal thing as far as or professional? How do I break this bad news about a shortage to a customer?
Sure.
It can give suggestions. Doesn't mean you should copy and paste it. You
Yeah.
could edit it, right? But it's there. And then more long term, more strategic. Well, there are open discussions. We are overdue, in fact, for an ERP revision.
Mhm.
So there are things that we can buy off the shelf. We can update what we have now, or there's a question floating around, and I don't know the answer, but can we do it ourselves with an additional developer or two, relying on AI to help with our coding? It's
Yeah.
it's it's to be determined, but there are lots of possibilities. I'm part of the group that has access to Claude, and there are because again, it's all proprietary, so I can feed it SQL coding that I have. I don't have to worry about confidentiality. How do
Sure.
you improve this, right? And then they've gotten a whole lot better in the past 2 years. It's pretty impressive. Um, it's pretty impressive the capabilities, and it's only going to get better. Other people I know use it for, hey, here's data, sales data, for example. Put this together at high level presentation synopsis, and it's giving very good results. So
Yeah.
it's a positive.
I know it sounds like this talk, which I know you mentioned is Monday morning at Cultivate. I think it's 10:45. I was looking at the schedule just before we started talking here. Um, if I'm a business owner in this industry, I think I've got to either be there myself or have somebody from my team, listen, because I mean, you're talking about some great, as you said, real world examples of how you guys are using some of these new tools to improve efficiency and improve planning, et cetera, at Green Circle. So I think it's something that really everybody should have a lot to look forward to as they attend something like that. Um, so I know that you're giving this talk at Cultivate. When in terms of the rest of the show, what do you normally look for? Actually, I'll ask specifically about this year. What are you looking for at Cultivate beyond the presentation that you'll be giving?
Fair enough. So I multiple things when I'm at Cultivate.
Sure.
We have for our young plants, we have one broker sales team, and that's Express Seed.
Mhm.
And so if I'm just hanging around, I'll normally be around the Express Seed booth.
Okay.
Just because customers or sales reps may have questions or want to stop in and talk. I do visit, and there are different key industry connections. So I'll visit all of our key breeder partners,
Okay.
just check in with how they are doing, as well as it's again, this is such a strange industry, but competitors are friendly here.
Yeah.
So I will stop into the competitors, other plug and liner suppliers who are displaying. Most of them know me at this point, not all, but most of them know me. And and I have a simple rule when I go to trade show, if it's Mance or Cultivate or anywhere else, if I see a liner tray, I stop. I look and
Mhm.
I'll pull it out and look at the roots. It's just what I
Yeah.
do, and just end up talking to members there. But beyond that, we're fortunate at Green Circle that we're only about 2 hours away from Columbus,
Yeah.
and so we send down dozens of people, and it's not just the most experienced, but it's also section growers. It's our interns are going down for a day, other things like that. And so I'm available for any other Green Circle employee as well who it's their first time or they would just like to have a different sort of introduction to the industry.
Sure.
I can give my perspective on it. I can walk through them for it's a big show. I can't walk through the whole thing with them, but I can show
Yeah.
them different pieces about how I view things and
Okay.
what the relationships are like.
Okay. Okay. When you take a step back and you look ahead, what excites you the most about the potential for where technology is going in this industry, and some of the improvements that it can bring to companies like Green Circle?
I can tell you that the automation is much improved over time. The iteration is real. In improvements, we last fall, we bought a new plug fixing machine,
Mm.
which is, heads and shoulders above our prior machines. Different
Okay.
company. It's basically the next generation up, but the one machine that we bought did the work of 3 of our old
Okay.
fixing machines, and did it faster than the 3 that we had.
Nice.
So, yes, there's a cost in it, but there's a payoff, obviously, that can go through there. So I think that sort of automation, and particularly with imaging, and, especially when it comes into, when Green Circle Young Plants was, our Plant 6, our facility area for young plants was built 20 years ago, it was predominantly seed production. And this is what the facility was built for, to chew through flats, right? You run your 288 trays so that you can fill your flats and then go into the big box stores. Well,
Sure.
that's not the industry anymore. Yes, seed is still important, but increasingly there's products that can only come from URC just because of the development time, or
Right.
now from tissue culture. And those 3 starting points, inputs, all have different sort of requirements. So I'm especially interested and optimistic about improving the propagation process starting from URCs and especially tissue culture. As development is there, that'll be a good thing. Because right now we're doing a lot of that by hand, and getting the efficiency and the consistency from mechanization will be a good benefit for us.
Thank you for joining us. You can learn more about this and other topics at greenhousegrower.com, and you can also follow Greenhouse Grower on LinkedIn. Please subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, and please leave us a rating or review as it helps other listeners find the show. The Greenhouse Grower to Grower podcast is produced by the team at Meister Media Worldwide. I'm Brian Sparks, editor of Greenhouse Grower.